So you're an incumbent.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about the time you've had on the board and
Sure.
some of the things you've been able to accomplish.
Sure.
I guess.
I've been on the board. This is my 4th year now. I was appointed for 1 year, filling position when Don Ludwig left the board. And then I was reelected the year later, and this finishing up my 3rd year now. Currently serving as the vice president, have for the past 2 years. One of my areas of focus that I've certainly been involved in is the area of early childhood education and how that quality early childhood experiences are important to have children ready to learn, ready to begin school, preventing what we call these achievement gaps from ever occurring. So I've been very involved in that in the community and look to try to expand that some, at least what our district can be involved in. The areas that I've tried to maintain my emphasis has been, as far as educating myself and whatnot, has been as far as the financial issues are concerned, school finance and school law to some degree. I actually the Missouri School Board Association has levels of training that you can achieve, and I want to achieve the master level of training in that area. I felt like that some of my personal experiences as a small business owner and handling employees and doing payrolls and all that could carry over to trying to understand a governmental entity and how you have to deal with those things. So, and then I've just over the years have been really active in the schools, doing a lot of mentoring, and met with a lot of teachers, and actually been in the schools, and felt like that was a good experience, that I had something that I could contribute.
Sure.
So.
And you mentioned that management's going to definitely be an issue, already an issue with the budget.
Right, and having to maintain
it.
And I think we've done a very good job at, people ask, are concerned sometimes if we trying to maintain reserves that they think are excessive, greater than what we need to have. But as you can see in the long run, it's ending up being beneficial for us as we have these uncertain budgetary times. So strains, and we've had. The unfortunate thing is that since I've been on the board, every year has been a year we've had to make reductions, and mostly that ends up coming down to positions that we have to eliminate. Not necessarily people that we have to let go, but positions that we don't refill, and that just puts the burden on those that that remain behind. So.
Right. And so what options do you see for those teachers who are kind of being asked to do more? I mean, what can we do to help them?
We're kind of limit, because we're also wanting to increase achievement, so that becomes a strain on the system. I think if we can have, we want to make sure we have quality teachers in place, which I think we do, but maintaining that quality, having ample continuing education and professional development for those teachers to help them do their jobs well, so that they aren't encumbered by a lot of extra duties that are time that they have to spend. If they can do something well and know how to do it efficiently, that can help. We seem to, I hear from the teachers a lot of concerns of just a lot of testing that has to be done, a lot of assessments and the requirements for that. There again, looking at what we really need in that area, what gives us the greatest amount of information, and not do the things that aren't giving us any information. So in those areas. And then we have just a lot, I talk about the teachers, but a lot of the burden also goes into the staff too, that extra burden. We've cut staff. And
Well, and that, what we're kind of talking about there kind of plays into what's become a hot topic now, teacher tenure versus some of these evaluations.
Right.
Where do you stand on that whole debate?
I think that for our district, it hasn't been a problem. A teacher that is tenured, that is not performing, can still be removed if they need to be removed, if they're not performing well or for other reasons. I think we can improve probably on our evaluation process, that maybe make it more streamlined, just looking into that issue. But I do not have a problem with teachers having tenure, as long as there's an equitable and efficiently run process to remove those teachers if they're not being effective in the classrooms. Now, the question becomes, how do we assess that? How do we assess their performance in the classroom? And we don't really have all the answers to that yet, trying to make all things equal in those assessments. So
Sure. And then while we're on the controversial topic, collective bargaining for teachers.
Right.
Where are you on that?
And that's coming. That's around the corner for us. I do not have a problem with the collective bargaining process. We have a unique or interesting situation in our district where we seem to have, as far as the employee groups are concerned, one organization that is not necessarily in favor of that process and another that strongly is. So needing to iron out those areas. And I don't think I don't see it as much as a problem with the process as with what that agreement ends up being. And I think that's where the problems have occurred. We as the Board of Education cannot be giving away authority to make decisions that they need to make for the betterment of the district. So, and that's all comes out to what type of agreement that you have. So being careful in those areas.
Sure. Another thing that's going on right now in Columbia, redrawing some of the districts
Right.
with the
Right.
new school coming in. Obviously,
Right.
that's probably exciting to have a new school.
Right.
What are some of the important aspects of that process that you think for parents that are concerned about this? What are some of the things we're going to need to look at as far as making sure continuity for students?
Right.
Those
Right.
types. What are the important
Exactly.
issues in that?
I think an area that we are going that I believe the board will emphasize is certainly trying to maintain a demographic that's representative of the populations of Columbia, but not looking to have extraneous transportation costs to do that. To be realistic and trying to weigh those out. The demographic issue will probably weigh a little heavier, but we're not going to be taking these long extended transportation routes to, and obviously taking somebody that's closer to one high school and moving them to way out to another one. I don't see that as happening. But it's really going to be difficult and interesting to play out. But I think the one thing I feel comfortable about is that we're getting out to the community and having several meetings. It will be an open process. We'll be presented with options. Those may need to go back to the drawing board if people aren't happy with those, and until we get something that most of the people will be satisfied with. I say no matter what, there are going to be a number of people that will not be satisfied, and I think 2 to 3 years down the line, everybody will be eventually satisfied with it. A difficult thing becomes where students are that are in the middle of their school years right now, and separating them out and families and whatnot, and trying to be careful about that. So there is going to be some added costs, transportation costs to the district as we do try to accommodate those needs.
Yeah,
for a while.
It's one of these things that's going to be difficult. There are going to be some parents that are going to be unhappy about probably any decision.
It's going to happen. Exactly.
Right. There was also talk of in one of the other interviews I did about trying to make the board maybe a little more interactive with the community.
Mm-hmm.
I guess. Do you think the board as it is? Do you think it's very good at interacting with community?
Yeah.
I mean, now there's a lot of
Yeah.
a lot of different opportunities as far as the
Right.
internet and
Right.
and emails that
Right.
could make it maybe a little
Sure,
more.
I think we do. I think we are open. The difficult thing that the board has is that when we meet as a board, that's an open meeting. When we meet 4 or more people, that needs to be a advertised open meeting of the board in order to discuss issues and all that. I do think that we probably should and could offer more opportunities, more meetings that we have that are open like that, where we have them in the evening that more people can attend. We have the evening meeting, but then we have our morning work session where a lot of people can attend. I'm, certainly open to having more meeting opportunities like that where we do hear from our constituents. I had often thought about, some of the city council members have these office hours that they have on weekends, and I've often thought about doing something like that too. People have to understand when one person is out there talking, we're talking as an individual, which is not necessarily representative of what the board would be thinking. So, but that may be an option in the future for that type of thing. So,
Okay. You mentioned the achievement gap earlier. What other sort of solutions do you see or challenges too?
Certainly as far as the achievement gap is it relates to that, it's a community-wide issue. In the end, poverty is a main factor in that, and we have more children, that are eligible for free and reduced lunch, and it's not necessarily a cultural issue as much as a poverty issue that we look at, and so the schools can do what we can do to try to help those students when they're there, and I think also before they get there, trying to do more early childhood opportunities for those children. Again, trying to utilize best practices and systems that seem to have worked, but then we also have to be involved as the district, as a board, in what the community may be trying to do as far as poverty is concerned in those issues in our community. So,
do you think there are more opportunities for maybe like partnerships with nonprofits?
Sure, certainly, especially in the area of early childhood. That is really the only way that it's going to work at a universal scale is to have to partner with private institutions and nonprofits and things like that. So, yeah.
Being an incumbent, what are some of the other, I guess, issues you see coming up in the next few months, weeks, years?
Okay. Certainly, space is going to be an issue. We can talk about tax levies and bond levies and our bond issues and what we might be looking at in the future. Certainly, it's a difficulty to predict what our finances are going to be like, since we never really know what the state's going to come down from the state in our funding that way. But as we look to the future, we may need to come to our constituents again to ask for a vote on a tax levy increase for operating expenses, just as our fixed expenses continue to rise, but our income does not. And that has to relate to not only what we get from the state, but also our property taxes and assessed valuation there. And then we also have space needs. I mean, we're trying to eliminate these trailers, these inefficient trailers that we have at all these schools. So we're going to need to either add on to buildings or build buildings. And then for bricks and mortar, we need to have bond funds that we are allowed to take out loans and pay off those bonds. They're not tax increases, but they are. The community needs to approve those, and so those would be in the future. I see both of those within the next 5 years.
Okay, are those things, these tax levies, things you would push hard and encourage, or are they things that you just want to kind of get a gauge from the community on? Is this an investment you guys see as valuable? You know what I
mean? Yeah. If it does come to a point that we're going to gauge the community or engage the community, it's going to be at a point where we feel like we're really going to need it, and we wouldn't do that before then. I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're trying to at least mention it now so that the community does know that this might be in the future.
Sure. I guess your time on the board. Mm-hmm. Do you think you guys have been able to make a lot of progress?
Yes, I think we have. When I was starting on the first years, we certainly had the year after my first year when I ran for election. That was also the time we had a levy increase election that failed, and certainly the morale seemed to be low, and just confidence in the district seemed to be low. I think those areas have improved. We seem to have a very interactive board that does become very involved and is questioning, and I see that as good. We've had issues about our curriculum, for instance, that came up, and were we going to use those best practices? Were we using evidence-based research in determining what we would incorporate? And it's become more evident that that is going to be scrutinized and that we need to be doing that. So I look forward to seeing those types of things continue.
How important is continuity in the members of the board?
I was very pleased with those that seem to be running this time. So I see we have been recognized as a rather young board, meaning not a lot of years of service. Jan Meese and I tend to be the two longest serving with 4 years of service. So I think there is some benefit to having that experience of what's happened in the past and not have to, there is a learning curve that occurs. And I felt like I've gone through that, and still understand what other members of the board are seeking, and would look to push those agendas forward as well. So
sure, and unfortunately can't manufacture that experience right now. And like you said, but you feel, with the crop of candidates you have, I hope that maybe there's some people.
I feel confident that we'll have another excellent board. Continuing on. So,
okay.
Yes.
Okay. I don't. That's really about all the questions I had. Is there anything else? Any other issues you wanted to talk about?
Well, that's about it. I certainly appreciate the support that people have given me in the past, and I just keep looking. Excited about the opportunities for our district. We have concerns. We have the achievement gap concerns and other concerns that we have. But I tell people, gosh darn it, we still have an excellent school system. We still have a lot of students that do an excellent job and do very well in the future. So I'm excited about that and where we're going.
Okay.
All right.
Tom, thanks a lot for your time. I
appreciate
it.
No problem.